All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we've got a pretty interesting one. We've got a whole stack of documents here
Oh, yeah.
about this film called Monnster Studio. Script notes, cast lists, production details. Looks like we're about to step into a world where rock and roll meets a whole lot of supernatural stuff.
Right.
So, our mission today will to figure out what this film is all about. And, more importantly, who is this Glenn Millar, the creator behind it all?
Yeah, he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? From what we've gathered, he's had a long career in digital media,
Hmm.
composing music, directing, you name it, even software development. It seems like he's comfortable wearing a lot of different hats.
Yeah, he definitely seems to like to dabble.
Yeah.
But one thing that really stands out is his work on Tambo and Juliet, right?
Absolutely. That's the one that really put him on the map.
Yeah. He made that whole film on a shoestring budget, like 500 pounds.
You're kidding.
I know, right? It's amazing. What does that tell us about him?
Well, it shows he's incredibly resourceful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Clearly prioritizes creative vision over big budgets. And from the looks of it, he's brought that same spirit to Monnster Studio, too.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names on this crew list.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the studio itself. The script describes it as it's this rundown rehearsal space built on an old Indian burial ground. And get this, the bogs, the toilets are a portal to hell. I mean, come on.
I love that. Classic horror trope, right?
What were your thoughts when you first read that?
Well, it's clearly meant to be over the top. But I think there's something deeper there, too. This idea that the studio is built on this ancient burial ground and a gateway to hell, no less.
Mhm.
It suggests that Miller might be exploring the idea that creativity itself, can be messy,
Yeah.
unpredictable, even dangerous.
And then there's the goo, this ectoplasmic slime. It's everywhere in the script. I mean, what's up with that? What do you make of that?
Well, on one level, it's just gross, right? Adds to the comedic horror vibe, definitely. But it could also be symbolic, don't you think?
Okay, how so?
Well, maybe it represents the chaotic energy that often comes with creative endeavors, the sheer messiness of bringing something new into the world.
Huh, like the residue of creative energy.
Exactly.
Okay, enough about the goo. Let's move on to the characters. We got to
Yeah.
talk about these characters. This cast list is wild. Okay, we've got a glam rock vampire named Thundercock.
Thundercock.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and according to the script notes, he's still living in the 80s, desperately searching for virgin blood.
Oh my God. What do you think Millar's doing with that?
I think he could be poking fun at aging rockers who refuse to let go of their glory days, that whole persona.
Yeah, makes sense. And then there's Tongue Guy. He's described as this sweet but hideous monster living in the hellish bogs.
Right.
What do you think Millar is going for there?
He's interesting. Tongue Guy, because he seems to represent the idea that appearances can be deceiving. He's literally a monster, but
Yeah.
he's also shy and sensitive. Maybe
Yeah.
Millar's challenging us to look beyond the surface and see the humanity.
Or the monster entity, as it were.
Right, exactly. To see the monster entity in everyone.
And we can't forget the psychotic clown drummer.
Oh, yeah. The one who terrorizes his students with, get this, greasy cucumbers.
Greasy cucumbers, that's a new one. I mean, what's going on there?
It's absurd, right? Definitely adds to the overall comedic tone, but it highlights Miller's love of surprise.
Mhm.
He keeps us guessing, throwing in these bizarre details that just make you laugh and wonder what's next.
Yeah, he definitely keeps you on your toes.
Totally.
And then there's this whole troupe of brain-craving burlesque zombies. I mean, that's a pretty unique combo.
It is, and it speaks to his love of genre blending. He takes these familiar horror elements like vampires and zombies and gives them this fresh comedic spin. It's like he's saying, yeah, this is a horror comedy, but hold on tight because you've never seen anything quite like this before.
Now, amidst all these outrageous characters, we have our protagonist, Nigel.
Right. Nige.
He seems like a pretty average guy, just suddenly thrust into this crazy world.
Yeah, he's the audience surrogate. Through Nigel, we experience the chaos and absurdity of Monnster Studio, and it seems like he's going to go through quite a journey of self-discovery as he navigates this bizarre landscape.
Speaking of journeys, let's talk about Pete. He owns the studio,
Yeah,
right?
he's the owner.
And the former roadie for a band called, wait for it, the Crotch Goblins.
The Crotch Goblins.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Legendary. Based on these notes, notorious for their wild antics, their excessive use of goo.
And don't forget their explosive demise in a paint factory.
Oh, yeah. It's almost as if their spirit of chaos is still lingering in the studio itself.
I was just thinking that. What do you think about the connection between Pete and Nigel?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. You've got this seasoned mentor who's seen it all and this wide-eyed newcomer.
Ah, total newbie.
Right. There's potential for a really great mentor-mentee relationship there.
It'll be interesting to see how their dynamic plays out,
Yeah,
especially with all the craziness going on around them.
absolutely. Speaking of craziness, we have to talk about Nigel's mom, Mavis.
Oh, yeah, Mavis.
This is where the story takes a turn
Yeah.
towards the unexpected.
Right. In one of the script excerpts, Mavis, she attends a seance and discovers that she's a descendant of an Indian lawyer.
Sandeep Kuthrapali,
Sandeep.
who's apparently stuck in some sort of ghostly limbo because of a curse. It's a fascinating blend of cultures and comedic possibilities.
And the key to breaking the curse. Himalayan salt. What could it possibly mean?
It's certainly a bizarre clue, but it seems like Millar is leaving these breadcrumbs, these little bits of absurdity, to keep us engaged and wondering where the story is headed next.
Like he's challenging us to piece together the puzzle ourselves.
Exactly, and that's what makes this deep dive so intriguing, right? We're not just passively absorbing information, we're actively trying to make sense of it all, to unravel the mysteries that Millar's, woven into this world.
So we've got this bizarre setting, outrageous characters, a mysterious curse, and a whole lot of goo. I mean,
Yeah.
what could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's what we're here to find out, right? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the world of Monnster Studio and the creative mind behind it.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
This Himalayan salt thing, it's so vague.
Right.
It's like he's playing with us,
Mhm.
giving us just enough to make us curious, but not enough to actually solve anything.
Yeah, it's like a trail of breadcrumbs,
Yeah.
leading us deeper into this bizarre world. And you know what? I bet those breadcrumbs are covered in goo.
Oh, probably. But speaking of trails, what about Nigel's journey in all of this? We
Yeah.
talked about him being the audience surrogate, but what do you think Miller's trying to say about Nigel's growth? His transformation in this whole chaotic environment.
Well, from what I've gathered, Nigel starts off pretty naive,
Yeah.
kind of clueless, really. He's just thrown into the deep end of Monnster Studio, literally and figuratively. No idea what to expect. He's got to confront his fears, deal with these outrageous personalities, and ultimately find his place in this whole strange new world.
Yeah, it's like a classic coming-of-age story, but with monsters.
Right.
Do you think Miller's using these supernatural elements as metaphors, for the challenges we all face?
And interesting. Like, he's saying life itself is a bit of a monster movie,
Yeah.
full of twists and turns, and sometimes you just got to embrace the chaos and find a way to survive.
Exactly. And maybe even thrive in that chaos, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really curious about the relationship between Nigel and Pete. You've got this seasoned mentor seen it all,
Right.
and this eager newcomer who's just trying to find his footing.
And their interactions are hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete's definitely got that tough love approach,
Oh, wow.
pushing Nigel outside of his comfort zone into some pretty ridiculous situations.
Like sending him into the portal bogs to negotiate with Tungai.
Oh, man, that scene is gold. But you get the sense that Kate really cares about Nigel, even if he shows it in some pretty unconventional ways.
Right, like he recognizes Nigel's potential, wants to help him navigate the treacherous waters of the music industry.
Or the treacherous waters of the Monnster Studio bathroom.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the practical challenges either. There's also this emotional layer,
Yeah.
Nigel's trying to figure out who he is, what he wants to do.
Right.
And Pete, I think, despite his rough exterior, might be the perfect person to guide him.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic. It makes me think about mentorship in general, We all need someone who can challenge us, support us, help us find our way.
Totally, totally.
Mm.
And speaking of mentors, let's go back to the crotch goblins for a sec. We know they were notorious for their wild antics, their overuse of goo,
Right.
but I'm curious about their influence on Pete. Is it something that haunts him or inspires him?
Ooh, good question. They represent this unbridled, chaotic energy, right? They lived life on their own terms, even if it meant, well, ending up in a peat factory explosion.
And Pete was there for all of it.
Right, witnessing their rise and fall. It must have shaped his worldview in some way.
Definitely. Maybe he sees them as a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
A reminder of the dangers of excess. Or maybe he romanticizes their wild spirit, sees Monnster Studio as a way to keep that spirit alive.
Maybe it's a bit of both. He's carrying their legacy, for sure, but he's also trying to create something new, something that honors their past,
Right.
while forging a new path for himself and for the next generation of musicians, you know?
Like Nigel.
Like Nigel, exactly. And it's not just about music either. Monster Studio itself, it's like a melting pot, a
Yeah.
space where, I mean, creatures of all shapes and sizes come together. It feels like Miller's exploring this idea of acceptance, you know? Finding common ground in all the weirdness.
We've got vampires, zombies, monsters from other dimensions, and they're all just trying to make music.
Right.
Rehearse their acts. Avoid getting covered in goo.
It's like he's saying, hey, we're all a little bit monstrous in our own way. Let's just embrace it.
Right.
And think about Tungai. He's literally a monster.
Yeah, living in the portal bogs.
Right. But he's also kind, sensitive, just wants to be accepted.
It challenges our idea of what's normal.
Right.
Who gets to decide what's monstrous and what's not?
Right.
I mean, maybe the real monsters are the ones who judge and exclude others based on how they look or how different they are.
That's a powerful message, and he does it through humor. That's the brilliant part.
Yeah.
He takes these potentially heavy themes, you know, acceptance, identity, the nature of creativity, and just wraps them in this layer of absurdity and laughter.
Makes it more accessible.
Right. You're laughing one minute, and then the next you're like, wow, there's a lot to think about here.
Exactly. That's what makes it so engaging. It's thought-provoking and entertaining.
Totally.
Makes you laugh, makes you think, and makes you wonder, what's Millar going to do next? And speaking of what's next, we haven't even touched on the technical side of things. The notes mentioned he's using AI in some pretty innovative ways.
Oh, yeah. He's really pushing the boundaries there. Using AI to generate music, create special effects, even help with the writing process. It's pretty amazing.
And he's doing all this on a limited budget, too. It's incredible, the level of creativity and resourcefulness that's going into this.
Yeah, it speaks to his whole DIY ethos, his commitment to making things happen, you know, even with limited resources. He's proving you don't need a Hollywood budget to create something truly unique.
And it's not just about the technology either. He's building a community, too. The notes talk about he calls them his dependable ensemble of actors and crew, many of whom have faced some tough times, but they're all dedicated to bringing these projects to life.
It's inspiring, isn't it? He's creating opportunities for people who might not otherwise get a chance to showcase their talents, you know? He's building a community around creativity. That's pretty special.
It's clear Millar is passionate about storytelling, about pushing the boundaries of filmmaking.
Totally.
And empowering others to do the same. And it's all wrapped up in this wonderfully weird package that is Monnster Studio.
It really is. It's a celebration of the strange, the different, the monstrous within all of us. And it's a reminder that even in the midst of chaos and, well, goo, there's always room for laughter, creativity, and a good meat pie.
A good meat pie, that's right. Speaking of meat pies, I'm suddenly craving one.
Oh, yeah.
But before we go on a culinary detour, I have one final question that's been nagging at me. So this movie, it's clearly packed with outrageous humor, bizarre characters, but do you think there's like a deeper message here about, accepting the strange, the different, the monstrous within all of us?
It's interesting because he doesn't, hit you over the head with it.
Right.
He presents this wondrously weird world and just lets the audience kind of draw their own conclusions. It's not about preaching acceptance. It's about showing it. And look at Pete,
Yeah.
He's created this space where everyone, monster or not, is welcome. He doesn't judge Thundercock for his 80s obsession or Tungai for his unique appearance.
Yeah, it's true.
He just accepts them.
Even Mystic Madge,
Right.
who's always going on about curses and doom,
Yeah.
she ends up finding love with a werewolf boy band leader.
Of course.
It's like Miller saying we all have our quirks, our own brand of weirdness.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And maybe even something to celebrate. It makes you wonder if Monnster Studio itself is a metaphor for the creative process, It's messy, unpredictable, full of strange characters and unexpected challenges.
Yeah.
But it's also a place where amazing things can happen when you just let go and embrace the unknown.
That's a great point. It's like that saying, one man's monster is another man's muse. What might seem strange or even repulsive to one person could be, a source of inspiration and beauty to another.
And that's the power of art, isn't it? It challenges us to see the world through different eyes, to step outside our comfort zones and embrace the unexpected.
So after diving deep into all these documents about Monnster Studio, about Glenn Millar, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What sticks with you?
It's the transformative power of creativity and community. I mean,
Yeah.
Miller has created this world where anything is possible, where the strange and the familiar collide, and where everyone has a place at the table.
Hmm.
It's a reminder that we don't have to fit into some neat little box, you know? We can embrace our inner monsters, our unique talents, and find connection with others who appreciate us for who we truly are.
And sometimes that connection can be found in the most unexpected places, like a rundown recording studio built on an ancient burial ground with a portal to hell in the bathroom.
Exactly. It's a reminder to never underestimate the power of a good laugh, a shared passion, and a whole lot of goo.
Well said. So for anyone listening who's feeling a little bit monstrous, a little bit lost, or just in need of a good laugh, I think Glenn Miller's Monnster Studio might be just the thing,
And who knows, you might even discover your own inner rock star along the way.
and maybe develop a sudden craving for a meat pie. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another adventure in knowledge and entertainment.